Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. This is JR, founder and CEO of Social Market.
Hey, my name's Leann Hitchens. I'm the CMO of Social Market, and this week we've got some pretty exciting stories. There's 5 of them that we want to cover this week.
If you weren't under a rock this week, there's another potential war happening in the Middle East, which is actually kind of a way to start off the episode because it's actually impacting the markets quite a lot, and there's a lot of uncertainty. The markets have been taking a large hit because of all the commotion and all of the uncertainty of what is going to happen between Israel and Iran. Not to turn this into political, but it actually does have like a ricochet effect on the markets, like anything political that happens to the world. Let's show you what is happening on Social Market. Okay, so with Social Market, this is kind of like an overview of what's happening in the markets right now. So on their market overview, right now it's still Bitcoin season. The scale is tilting more on the Bitcoin side.
It ties to one of our conversations to this episode about Pump.fun. So it really is Bitcoin season right now.
Yeah, so Pump.fun, more on that later. It's actually possibly getting banned in the US. So because of that, that's probably like over 80% of Solana's volume, which is like in the millions, hundreds of millions. With all that said, there's still fear and greed. It's about 50% people really don't know how to feel. It was just last week when the fear and greed index was like at 60. So there was more greed in the markets. Inflation is at about 2.4%. which is considered acceptable in the US, and the bull market index, it's looking a bit more bearish as of this week. And these indexes are a little bit more based on the weekly basis as well. Bitcoin in the last week has actually gone down a little bit. So it was maybe at 108,000 and now it's closer to 103,000. So as you can see in the chart, it's kind of bouncing up and down. We'll hopefully have more certainty in the coming weeks. As far as what's going to happen with Israel or Iran, and hopefully, we don't get to World War III. I think that's what we're all hoping we don't get to.
Yeah, I also think as the Genius Act passes, Congress gets signed into law, we're going to get some really good motion upward for crypto, and then just normal market fluctuations when conflict breaks out in anywhere. The institutional money always pulls back and looks for what's happening, and I think that's really causing crypto to follow the market more than it used to ever before. So good and bad of institutions being in the crypto markets. It's going to start moving with Wall Street more and more.
I was talking to a few friends this week about the state of crypto, and including you, Leon, and now that crypto is getting, mind you, it's getting the regulation needed, but it's also simply getting regulated. So are we going to have to, for businesses, start considering about getting all these kind of licenses? Are we going to have to start paying hundreds of thousands or even thousands in compliance every year? Do we have to renew any kind of license? That's kind of the fear that we're starting to get. However, because of the background of Brian and other industry leaders who have been pushing for this act, including the Winklevoss twins from Gemini and the founder and the current CEO of Robinhood, they've been pushing the crypto narrative in Capitol Hill. I believe that even though it's looking a bit like, are these things going to get as regulated as banks? It's looking like, because of the software and decentralized nature of crypto, how it may not just be like that. It may just be that, hey, anyone who has the knowledge can go and create an app, and they can embed a button that says, hey, I'm going to buy Bitcoin right now with Apple Pay, and I don't really have to worry about, any kind of license on the side of the business.
What I see in a lot of industries is what they call regulatory capture, where a few large players say regulate us very heavily, and then that regulatory capture is essentially nobody else smaller can come into it because it's so cost prohibitive.
Right.
It doesn't look like Brian Armstrong is doing that. Yesterday you sent me an update, he's building out these SDKs, he's building out these APIs, and all of these tools to become an infrastructure, just like AWS, just like Cloudflare is for the internet. Coinbase could become the infrastructure of the crypto internet. They're helping onboard all of these companies. Also, Coinbase, the amount of startups that are coming from alumni from Coinbase that are in the crypto world, it's huge number. You don't see that too often from these companies anymore, just because they want to stay, they don't want to leave. The money is comfy, and competing against a Google or a Meta, you don't get another company that's coming out in the same industry. Like they might go build something cool off to the side that's not competing, but essentially these companies are sort of competing with Coinbase in a quasi way, but they're just an overlay to what Coinbase does and then expands out, because Coinbase with Base is giving us the infrastructure, and within social market giving us the infrastructure to allow you to build easier, faster, and then us to like not worry about the product as much, or how do we get funds into a wallet? How do we deal with all of these different headaches that were kind of insurmountable before?
Well, yeah, I think Coinbase is trying to become a neo kind of bank. When they first became a thing, I know Brian wanted to name it BitBank, but there was a lot of regulatory compliance required by having the name bank in your name. So they pivoted to Coinbase. As we're starting to see more and more, especially once clarity becomes more clear, who knows, maybe it'll be so that anyone who has a crypto-based app or company, they can potentially become a neo kind of bank. And maybe they just won't have the need to be as regulatory compliant because, this is all just a possibility, but because of the nature of decentralization in crypto, only time will tell. But in this post from Twitter, you can see that Brian quoted a post from Farrier Shirzad. I don't know how to butcher that guy's name. My apologies. But he said that, hey, I'm excited to see the Genius Act pass for stablecoins. So in the very least, we're starting to see clarity on stablecoins because they're becoming mass adopted and mass used across the world. And then he goes on to thank Leader John Thune and every other senator who, was responsible for allowing this to happen. But the Genius Act has passed the Senate with 68 and 30.
It was a bipartisan pass, and it would have passed like a filibuster and stuff too. So that's quite a push to say that like everybody is supporting this more or less. Like the 30, I'm not sure why the 30 voted no. I would be curious to hear their opinions on did they like just say no because they don't believe in this? Did they say no because they don't believe some of the language is right, or there needs to be more rules around it? Like I'm kind of curious to hear the opposing side of this, because the Twitter bubble really only gives me the push to get this signed, the push to get this over the hump, and then David Sachs is consistently very bullish on this bill getting passed.
Elizabeth Warren, she was the one who actually appointed Gary Gensler, which he's kind of like the boogeyman of the crypto space, given the tenure he had in 2021 to 2024 under Joe Biden. And as long as we don't get any more people like them, I think we're going to be fine. I think Elizabeth Warren just, for whatever reason, hates crypto. But then again, typical senators can't even tell you how to use the internet. So only take their words as a grain of salt. Let the experts talk about crypto and maybe give their opinions. But, senators just stick to other things. But yeah, I think that's pretty much as far as it goes with the Genius Act. On our next story, we're actually going to talk about Brave. If you've used the Brave browser and you've used Twitch, well, with Brave browser, it has a native feature where you can do ad blocks, and I use it. You're actually seeing what it looks like on my browser, like from what you're seeing on screen. That's the Brave browser. Brave allowed users to block all Twitch ads within the platform, and this actually stirred quite a bit of commotion on Twitter as well as with Twitch. I first came into this story with Pirate Nation. Great guy. He talks about trends on technology and with video games. But he said this: Brave now blocks Twitch ads by default on all platforms, so you can kind of see how it looks like on the UI or the screenshot. Literally just got strike on YouTube for using Brave browser on stream. This is unreal. Team YouTube, your support team has been very vague with decisions because of this. Give me a break.
Let me read this real quick. Oh, this is so fascinating. Out of all the things that like YouTube could be mad for, I'm kind of like annoyed at this, but not surprised. Right. Like YouTube's whole thing, and like Chrome, uBlock, you're not allowed to use uBlock on Chrome anymore. The ad blockers on Chrome are all just like nerfed little versions to stop like crazy annoying ads. They allow like a bunch of stuff through, but them doing this, wow. What did YouTube say on that tweet back? Was it just like a canned message?
Team YouTube, we know how important this is for you. Mind sharing the video URL in question so we can take a closer look. And then the guy follows up later and says, "Any updates?" Of course.
Of course not.
Of course not.
That's peak Twitter.
God damn it.
Ooh, this is interesting because
Yeah.
I was using Arc browser for a little bit, and I loved that until the browser company, essentially nerfed it. They went to that new dial, whatever they're calling it. I'm gonna butcher the name. And I've been like looking for a new browser, and honestly, Brave never really popped up to me. But
use Brave.
Is it like I think Brave, when it first came out, it was really cool. I also love that it's crypto. Like the ads are all kind of crypto out wise. Like there's a lot of cool stuff in them. I'm actually downloading it right this second.
Yeah, this is not an endorsement, but I like to recommend to my friends and to people things that I use. I bounce between Safari, Chrome, Firefox, you name it. I still recommend Firefox for most people, but if you're a little bit more, tech-esque.
Firefox. But you're using a whole different rendering engine, and like the dev tools for it suck. Like
They do. With Brave, it's actually, a lot of it is Chromium based. So if you use Chrome a lot, then Brave is probably a more private form of Chrome. Let me share with you guys a bit of a short story here. So with Chrome, if you're paying for their ads, even if they're scam ads, they'll still push it. They don't verify all of their ads, or at least they didn't used to back then. This happened to me in 2022. I had like $5,000 in Bitcoin at one point. I tried to log into Coinbase to actually move some of that money. And because I was on Chrome, when I search Coinbase on Google and you populate all the results with links, I click on the topmost, which actually turned out to be a phishing link. They created a clone login of Coinbase, and when I gave them my login, they got into my account. And this was way before Coinbase won with the subscription, so my money was pretty much lost in the ether. They couldn't do anything, and I think all of this is due because I clicked on a phishing link, which it was super convincing. So I'm like, you know what, screw Chrome, I'm gonna go into something else. And then I've been using Brave since, and actually it's really good at, telling me, it blocks trackers, it blocks, scam links like those. Brave is as good as it gets as far as browsers, in my opinion. So I've never gone back to anything else, if I'm being honest.
This is kind of interesting. Granted, like I know how marketing, I know how bad ads can be sometimes, especially these display ads. Oh man, it makes the internet so much better. One
more thing I'll say is if you decide to, and I think this is the best way to incorporate ad models in any business. Brave does an excellent job with it. So they created their own token called Basic Attention Token, or BAT. If you go into their settings and you choose to watch their ads, they'll actually pay you with that token. Right now, the token is worth like a couple of pennies, but the more ads you watch, the more money you accumulate. I've already accumulated like at least $30 since 2022, which it's not a lot of money, but I mean, just by accumulating, that's like at least a cup of coffee. So I like what Brave is doing.
I'm with you. I'm gonna check it out again. It's been like, well, I guess since pre-COVID since I checked it out. Back to the Twitch thing real quick. I wonder how long that will last. Like, how long can Amazon allow that? And then even like YouTube, how long before these platforms start to find workarounds and nerf them, or altogether they just start blocking the browser? That is a real threat that could happen. They just say, hey, we're just not going to allow this browser when you're on Twitch. I've seen it happen when you have certain ad blockers on. They won't, certain news sites won't let you even view the website.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned that because it looks like Twitch has retaliated to this announcement by not letting Brave users sign in. So this is a post from Twitter, from Galaxy Red, when he's sharing a screenshot that is kind of replying to the Brave announcement. The screenshot says, your browser is not currently supported. Please use the recommended browser or learn more here. And it looks like he's using Brave. On the comments, I don't think Twitch replied to any of these, but I know in the past with Pirate Nation, Brave replied saying, hey, I appreciate getting the word out. But I haven't seen Twitch make any commentary on anything. So it's kind of interesting. This is why it's important to practice safety, practice security with your your usage on the internet, because it's not illegal, but companies find it annoying, so they'll just block your usage of it. It's like at one point, Coinbase, if you had a VPN or some sort of IP change tool, they would actually get mad at it, or they would detect it as some sort of an issue, which is just you being, safe. If you have a VPN, you're more than likely very techy. You more than likely understand the importance of online security. So you just keep doing you. These companies are going to have to comply at some point.
Yeah, and I know a bunch of companies even can detect VPNs now. They're just like avoiding all of that. So I'm interested to see where this fight goes. I want to kind of circle back on this in a month or two and just see what Brave has done, see what Twitch has done, and where it goes. These big tech companies, they're their own beast, and I'm sure it's going to take a few weeks for them to like get to the person to approve some sort of workaround like that's larger.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's as far as it goes with Brave and in this whole fiasco. But I think it is a good leeway to our next story, which is Meta trying to poach OpenAI's software engineers or their AI engineers. The reason why we're covering is because it kind of also should indicate you how the state of the markets are affecting even to people who work a 9 to 5 or something. This actually also was kind of a big story because everyone knows both Meta and OpenAI. But there's a post from Twitter from Ivan. If you have deep skills in AI, the poaching talent has started. Meta offering $100 million to top talent from OpenAI. So there's a couple of things here, but just to finish up this article, it's from Forden on the screenshot. Meta's $100 million signing bonus for OpenAI staff are just the latest sign of extreme AI talent war. Big tech is shelling out jaw-dropping compensation amid fierce AI talent war. Meta's even offering $100 million signing bonus. So we've already seen that. It's really interesting. So I think this first came out from Sam Altman, kind of just announcing it. So Sam Altman's brother is actually doing a podcast, and I think Sam Altman was one of the early guests, if not the first guest, who attended this podcast. And that's where he kind of unveiled the whole story. This person says, Meta is offering OpenAI staff $100 million signing bonus, and that is just a bonus. It proves how important AI is and how competitive it is. So this is a video from Sam Altman. I'm going to play it.
They started making these like giant offers to, a lot of people on our team. Mm-hmm. Like $100 million signing bonuses, more than that comp per year.
It's crazy.
And it is crazy. I'm really happy that at least so far, none of our best people have decided to take them up on that. I think that people sort of look at the two paths and say, all right, OpenAI's got a really good shot, much better shot at actually delivering on super intelligence, and also may eventually be the more valuable company. But I think the strategy of a ton of upfront guaranteed comp, and that being the reason you tell someone to join, like really the degree to which they're focusing on that and not the work and not the mission, I don't think that's going to set up a great culture. And I hope that we can be the best place in the world to do this kind of research.
It's just like a crazy amount of money. I know he's talking about culture and everything. I think sometimes culture at a workplace is like over-indexed. Like I don't disagree that it's important to like enjoy where you work and all of that, but the fact that it is like, oh hey, you do that. Now, I do think he has a point about the money.
Yes.
NVIDIA is one of those companies. I believe the average like employee net worth is about $10 million, and they have a problem of people just being too lazy or just not innovating and stuff. It's a very complex problem. I don't know so much about culture, but poaching's not uncommon. Like it's
not. It's very common.
Huge. Like we even do it all over the world. Like if we see a scientist somewhere in another country, like we'll poach them and bring them over here and like do that. Granted that was probably a different administration. I'm also surprised that these people aren't taking some of these offers. Like if Meta offered $100 million and you knew you could negotiate what you wanted there to like work on Llama and like set you up for this, like, hey, I want the next 5 years and I want this budget and I want these people and these resources, like the things you could do. I guess you could go and tell, Sam Altman, like, hey dude, this guy just offered me $100 million. Like, would you like give me all of these resources? And I'm sure Sam's just probably like, yeah, you want like a supercomputer and we have to go to like Sweden to buy it and like it's gonna be $1 billion, sure, whatever.
Dude,
But
yeah. I mean, especially the
is.
fact that Sam Altman, you know, kind of restructured the company in recent time. Like, it started as a nonprofit. It's a specific tax code, I forget, but they're now trying to become like a more for-profit model. And who
I
knows, they're probably
believe
going to
that
try
got
to IPO.
nixed.
It got mixed. Like, what do you mean?
Nixed, like it got killed. Like that,
Oh,
that
shit.
corporate restructuring, they dropped it after Elon made an offer to buy the company, which like I guess overvalued it, so it made it harder for them to turn into a for-profit company. And I'm just like, I'm probably butchering some of these facts, but
It's
they
crazy.
then turned around and dropped the thing to go into a for-profit company and said that they would stay a non-profit. But I chalked that up to
Right.
like Elon and his like antics there for it. But that whole non-profit for-profit thing, I also think was like a really bad look for them. Even Microsoft's like standing here holding the bag and just kind of like arguing with them constantly. It just, I think, for a perspective of like who's got a better culture, like I could see Meta having it in the end, but also like I Meta's like always a quiet mover. Like look at the Meta
Oh, yeah.
sunglasses. Like they've got Meta AI in it, and surprisingly, it's gotten a lot better. Like before, it was really slow to answer all this stuff. It kind of like told you were looking at the wrong thing. It told you the wrong things, and now you do it, and it's pretty accurate and it's really fast.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think Meta is usually considered the shark out of all these. Well, if you know FANG, like Facebook, what was once Facebook, it was Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Now it's become like Mango, which is like Meta, Apple, Nvidia, Google, and then OpenAI. So Mango instead of FANG. All these top, tech companies. I believe Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg have been the more sharky. They're more like doing acquisitions. They're, doing aggressive product development, aggressive product market fit. They try to buy some of their competitors, and when they say no, they'll also replicate them, or they'll take their features, kind of like with Snapchat. So, and then, this whole threads as well with Twitter. I think it takes a special kind of person to, like Mark Zuckerberg, to run a company like Meta has become. But speaking of Mark Zuckerberg, so this is a kind of a thread, and we'll link all of these relevant posts on the video here. But this is a thread that kind of encapsulates the whole history with OpenAI and Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, because we see here what Zuckerberg is doing to OpenAI, what he has done to past competitors. Meta has slowly become kind of a behemoth of a company. They're trying to do everything all at once, including AI. So in 2024, Google and OpenAI stole Meta's top engineers. Instead of recruiting new talent, Zuckerberg started personally emailing rival employees. His offer, not 1 million, not 5 million, but 100 million. Here's what he's giving them instead. So, well, in this case, it was 100 million with OpenAI, but he kind of just talks about like, I'm only gonna read maybe like two threads here, but you can read it all. This guy, Fernando Chao, he did really good here. And it's not just Mark Zuckerberg, as you just read. These other companies are the ones who are taking talent, and this kind of talent is scarce. It's really hard to obtain. There's a reason why the biggest startup unicorns we're seeing come from, they come from software engineers. So these are kind of like the same level of talent that we're talking about. At least, and this is one post from the thread, at least 10 million per year. Some offers went into 8 figures, not job descriptions, not specific roles, just we want you, and a number that could buy a mansion. So Meta offered one AI research at least 10 million to join up. This is something that I want to highlight, this post here, because we're starting to see AI become a much more understood and used and highly desired subject. When I was in college back in 2018, 2019, I was just barely getting into AI research and studying. It was very small. Like, I could tell you the classroom levels were like maybe 5 to 8 people at most. Now, that's probably triple, if not quadruple the amount, because everybody's like, oh, I want to be a AI engineer now. One more post that I'll use to kind of highlight the situation here. This is from Being Do Ready. Meta, the same company that said they are going to replace mid-level engineers with AI by mid-2025, is now offering $100 million for every AI engineer. Meanwhile, Alibaba, ByteDance, and DeepSeek are paying them like normal engineers and overtaking Google and OpenAI. So we're starting to see kind of a trend here where if you have very high skill, you're almost going to become unreplaceable, which is why we're starting to see like a shift from software engineers maybe starting to transition into AI engineers. If not, we're going to start to see that more because of these kind of offers. So it is kind of exciting, but it's also kind of scary because what's going to happen to the rest of us? People who don't have that kind of skill.
It also looks like a bubble. Like,
it is very much a bubble, man.
this isn't sustainable. Granted, I also think we're super far from like AI being as advanced as we want it to be. I believe it was Stanford University saying that like AI usage makes us a little dumber.
Yes.
There's also research coming out that, you know, like we're not as close to AGI as anybody's saying. It's essentially just really good pattern recognition from the AIs. There's just a lot of this like NFTs. I could see this blowing over a little bit more.
Yep.
I think AI will stay machine learning. You know, it's the evolution of machine learning, but I don't think it's going to be like the answer, end all be all. It's just like everyone's saying that supercomputers can crush Bitcoin here in the next 5 years, and I just sometimes think these trends go a little too fast, and then people realize, oh hey, we're 10-15 years away from like the good usage. Just like the iPhone. Like the iPhone from launching till today, it's magical, but it took them almost 10 years to really get there.
Yeah, I agree. So with the iPhone, actually, a lot of people disregarded it. It was like a trend, and that people always loved their tactical buttons on the phone. But now, I mean, everyone has phones that have like no buttons in it, if not just the volume and maybe the camera button with the latest iPhone model. So we'll see what happens. You know, AI is kind of a scary topic. I thought the bubble popped with DeepSeek coming out. I thought, hey, you know, it actually turns out VCs and investors don't need to pour in hundreds of millions, if not billions, to a company when they're fundraising. Like, I think OpenAI's last fundraiser model was in the billions. So that was ridiculous. But I mean, we'll see what happens. You know, it's still kind of fresh, and I think this is going to impact the market as well, as far as, you know, what kind of money people are bringing in, for at least top level engineers. So we'll see what happens. On to our next topic. We're going to be talking about Pump.fun. Pump.fun has maybe 80% volume of the entire Solana network, which we're talking about hundreds of millions. Well, they may just be banned from the US, which is not good for Solana. And I'm here to spread FUD, but, you know, Pump.fun is kind of a casino platform where people launch their own token. Just to give you a quick TLDR, Pump.fun, you launch your own token on the Solana blockchain. Solana is used because it's low fees and it's very fast. It's probably the best one at that in the market right now. And when people launch their tokens, people can see like a feed of new tokens. And what usually happens is people pour in a lot of money hoping to multiply their earnings or their return. And people who already have a lot more money there, they usually just sell and beat anyone else who's trying to do that. So it's kind of like a dog eat dog kind of world.
This wasn't just Pump.fun.
Yeah,
I looked it up a little bit. It was 20 plus crypto related sites. It was like GN, BullX,
Really?
Trading. Like a lot of these meme coin platforms were suspended, right? Also, the co-founders account, Elon Cohen's account was suspended, and like a lot of people were saying that it was third-party APIs, spam platforms, and all of that. But I didn't realize there was so many like lawsuits already happening. Like the UK have an FCA ban already in place on this stuff. There's a class action lawsuit from Jan 2025. Facilitated unregistered security sales through high volatility meme coins and collected nearly 500 million in unpaid fees. And then there's potential SEC action Some allege the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission is probing the platform, and then X did those suspensions essentially kind of at the bequest of the SEC, and that was all tied to it. So I think you calling it a casino's the nice way to say it. I think it's just really a scam platform in the end for a majority of the stuff. Like, I think there's some things, but again, I never really got the utility or the purpose around a meme coin. Like, the Trump meme coin kind of made sense now. Like, you get to meet with him in there, but like,
yep,
you know, just a random person like the Kanye coin, like, it was just to rip people off. The Hawk Tua coin to rip people off. Like, none of these really were based in, hey, I'm launching a coin to raise some money, and these are the features you get. Kind of like a Patreon or like a GoFundMe. Hey, I'm raising money via this coin. This is what you're going to get. The more you hold, the more access you get to me, the better, you know, resources you have for me. Like, if you're the largest holder, you and I will hang out, you know, a week, a year. Like, I could see that being useful, but there was just a, hey, do this, and this is what you get. Like, you know, you get money lost, and you're fucked half the time.
I still, to a large degree, enjoy the concept of meme coins, but when it's to the level of, you know, being early, so the earliest you can to scam the rest, that's just very bad for the industry. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for people. I don't think Pump.fun is going to learn anything. They're just going to continue doing whatever generates the most money as a platform, which unfortunately impacts Solana in a really, really good way, because with any financial system there is, the more volume, the more money is moving in that financial system, the more money everyone makes. So if you want to indulge on meme coins or in Pump.fun, just be very careful. People lose a lot of money there. And, you know, there's probably better alternatives. Hell, you can probably learn how to count cards at blackjack, and you can probably make more money there than you can with Pump.fun.
We'll see what happens too. Like, I really think this is all looming around the $1 billion token sale. They brought eyeballs to them via that $1 billion token sale rumor.
Yeah, so I did jump a little bit ahead here on my screen, but Pump.fun came back. So the timestamp was June 16 when it got suspended from the platform, and then like June 17th, the day after, it came back. It's kind of weird
Free
what's
speech
happening.
Platform, man.
Yeah, like it's so weird though, because some allegation comes after you, and then you just get banned, and then maybe the next day or the day after the next day you come back. That's where I'm like, okay, what is happening? How does the moderation here happen? But yeah, so Pump.fun is back.
Elon.
Yeah, that guy's like, all right, how many hits should I take so I can? I don't know what they do, but yeah, they're back, and the comments here it's Twitter energy.
We're unhinged.
Super. It's funny. I like the memes, but I think the founder also came back. Yeah, so he's also back, and you know he's
maybe they just abused the API and then, you know, something happened. But this will be an interesting watch, because I think for crypto to be a main focus of the United States government is they need to stop the spam and like the casino type stuff a little bit and make it more regulated, like the betting platforms, Polymarket and stuff like that, where there's some control and not just a pump and dump left and right.
I agree. But that's pretty much been for Pump.fun. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. Will the Solana ecosystem be impacted yet again? That will remain to be seen. But something that is being impacted with the markets is the war in Iran and Israel, which there's a lot to cover there. So let's get on with it. So it all started, you know, when Iran bombed Israel, and then Israel retaliated. Or no, I think it was Israel who bombed Iran first in recent. And then Iran retaliated, and they launched a lot of their older missiles, and then that kind of got rid of Israel's Iron Dome, and then we actually saw actual missiles hitting the capital of Israel, and you can find a lot of that content online right now.
And the context of that is actually not so much that the Iron Dome, like, munitions were depleted. It was that supposedly Iran was using the hypersonic missiles, and any ICBM, when it goes up, when it's coming back down, they generally hit hypersonic speeds.
Oh, wow.
And the Iron Dome isn't meant for that. There's another it's like a Patriot system that can take them out, but they have to make decisions on what to hit, what to prevent, and stuff. And it's unclear what's happening. But we know that the United States government is helping defend Israel. There's three systems. There's like a small one that protects it. There's a bigger one, and then a one that can reach like all the way to the Iranian airspace, as they're launching them. It's super interesting that they're able to intercept these, but it's also like, what is, where are these missiles from? Like, what are they capable of, and how many do they have? Israel took out a ton on their initial attack. Iran just had a massive failure of military, intelligence. They kept people together. They weren't in bunkers. Like, Iran just kind of fell apart fairly quickly, though they're still operating. So the war is heating up, and it's unclear, like, is America going to get involved, like all of that. And then to the Polymarket comment here.
Yeah, so Polymarket, at the grand high level, it is still gambling. At this point, probably the best use case with crypto has been gambling as far as generating revenue. But Polymarket does a really good job at also kind of highlighting what is happening in the world, because people are betting on trends. In this case, the war, potential war, I should say. Don't want to say it's a war yet. I hope not. But Polymarket here posted the odds of a nuclear bomb being detonated this year continue to rise, now at 18%. And that is something people are betting, which is alarming.
Yeah, and the bet is not so much that actually I believe Iran launches something that's unclear that if they do have nuclear weapons and all that, but it is actually that the United States drops bunker busters into the underground nuclear site, and those bunker busters can disable like the like essentially just put a bunch of rubble in the tunnels and everything, and the only way to get it is to use the bunker busters initially. They're like 30,000 pounds, and then to use a tactical nuke to wipe out that nuclear site completely. That's the Twitter rumors that they're talking about, and like the military folks that say like, hey, this might be the only way to definitely knock out the Iranian nuclear program fully.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. There's definitely several stories that conflict online, so we'll try to, in the coming weeks, keep you updated with that and see if any more clarity comes out. This comment from this post mentioned, I don't think betting money on a nuke going off is a good investment. And I'm like, man, that's true. And then Polymarket responded, what about betting that it won't go off? So
I would take the it's not going off bet.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty long. That's a step too far for any nation, I believe, and I don't think anybody would be in agreement that it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's kind of reassuring seeing that most people don't want it to go off either, because people will bet yes or no, but I think a lot of the times why people bet is based on how they feel. But on another post from Polymarket, the US strike Iran's underground nuclear base this month. A lot of people are saying yes, it will. More than 50% of people are saying that it will strike Fordo nuclear facility before July. So we probably got another week or less than 2 weeks. Another post from Polymarket here, and we're covering Polymarket because they're actually kind of giving us some statistics on how people are feeling about the situation. There is 1 in 5 chance nuclear bomb will go off. So again, almost the same thing. But let's actually use Polymarket. So the U.S. military action against Iran by Saturday. So that's today as of recording of this video. And it's now at 8%. It started at 18 as of maybe Wednesday, June 19th. And it kind of just went up and down. The highest it was after that was 14% chance. And now it's sitting right below 10. I like how Polymarket left a note here on the Middle East markets. So they're kind of covering markets across the world, it seems, based on the location of the market, the betting. The promise of prediction markets is to harness the wisdom of the crowd to create accurate, unbiased forecasts for the most important events to society. That ability is particularly invaluable in gut-wrenching times like today. After discussing with those directly affected by the attacks who had dozens of questions, we realized that prediction markets could give them the answers they need in ways TV news and Twitter could not. Note, as with all the markets currently displayed on Polymarket, there are no fees on this market. Damn, so they're not making any money here. That's
Yeah, I like that they
kinda
did that.
crazy.
It positions them in a way, and like, this is the interesting part too. And I want to wrap on this
Sorry.
part is, generally when wars break out, and I would say Israel and Iran is in a war, gold and bonds rally. Like any sort of safe haven asset becomes an asset flow. So like gold surged 78% while oil related inflation starts. It's interesting that didn't happen to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a digital gold and it's not considered a safe haven asset right now. Like just based on numbers, like the fact that Bitcoin's down today, hovering around 103, is a huge thing to kind of also talk about. Like again, it's not being considered as a safe haven asset flow. You got the energy sector, in kind of turmoil, like stocks on Exxon, Chevron have jumped. OPEC Plus, is talking about output supplies. We've got airline stocks hitting. So like there is a lot of escalation happening, and you got to look, as an investor, like what's happening. Like gold's a safe choice. High quality bonds are a safe choice. Energy equities for it, but crypto's not being talked about as a safe haven, and I think that's a huge part. Now, Polymarket is like benefiting on this, and not benefiting in the way of making money, but they're talking about it. So it's just a interesting thing to see how crypto is staying relevant, but also not benefiting from these conflicts.
Yeah, and I think that's great. So funny enough, they actually have Grok enabled here. So when we click on it, it actually does a query into the topic. So this is from Grok. U.S. military action against Iran by Saturday. In past tensions, the U.S. have escalated influencing probability market. Recent indicate Israel sites in Iran, prompting what precedent is a U.S. allowed 2 window for diplomacy before deciding Iranian warrants severe in the intervenes. And Americans are on the alert with deployments in region. So it kind of gives you a bit more context to some of what's happening. I think that's a really good way to incorporate AI. One more thing we'll leave here before we close this episode. OpenAI actually closed the deal with the US government, and they want to incorporate AI to improve their OPSEC or their security. I did a simple Google search, and it kind of gives you here that they were awarded $200 million contract by the U.S. Department of Defense to develop prototype artificial intelligence capabilities for the military. It will be completed on July 2026. One thing I would keep an eye on is AI stocks, probably military stocks as well, because we might be seeing another conflict here. So NVIDIA, being the shovel to the gold rush that is the AI race, its stock is actually going up. It's one of the few stocks that in the last 5 days wasn't impacted as much. I don't even know when this conflict started, but as of July 16th, the stock jumped almost $5, and it's just not gone down as severely as any other asset.
All that data processing, they're going to need NVIDIA.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We'll keep you guys updated with the markets, but I think that's as far as we have to cover today.
If you want to watch more of this, you can follow The Boost on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that, where you can find The Social Ledger every week and a few other shows, and then theboost.fm/The Social Ledger for all of the shows in the past post.
Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll subscribe if you already haven't. Share this with your friends. Like this video or dislike if you disliked it. But yeah, this has been The Social Ledger Report. Thanks for watching.